I broke into my brother's basement to recover a stolen turkey, and that's when his wife's healthy plan turned sinister. Hi, I'm Ray, 33, and if you told me a month ago that Thanksgiving would end with a missing turkey, a viral Facebook manifesto, and my brother sleeping on my couch like a fugitive, I'd have laughed in your face. It all started with a stupid group chat. My mom, ever the optimist, had decided this year's Thanksgiving was going to be extra special. Her words, not mine. All the siblings together again, she'd written, followed by a horrifying amount of turkey emojis. That meant me, my older brother Kyle, aka Captain Chaos, our sister Abby, and, unfortunately, Kyle's wife Melanie. Yes, that Melanie. See, Melanie and I have history. Not the fun kind. The she once accused me of stealing her car when she forgot where she parked kind. So when I got the invite, I responded like any sane person would, only if I don't have to sit near Melanie. Mom replied with a heart and said, "Oh, you two just need time to reconnect." Like this was a rom-com and not a hostage situation. Fast forward to the week of Thanksgiving. I'd just finished clearing out space in the garage for extra food storage, classic big family move, when Kyle texted me asking if I could do him a tiny favor. I should have known better. I really should have. He wanted me to pick up the turkey, the frozen turkey, a 28-pound beast he apparently bought weeks ago but left in his deep freezer and forgot about. Said he'd swing by tomorrow to grab it and promised Melanie would bake one of her famous pies. Side note, Melanie's pies are not famous, they're infamous. One Christmas, her pecan pie melted the serving spoon. Anyway, I agreed, mostly because I figured it was better than letting Kyle do it and end up in the ER with frostbite. He once tried to defrost a ham with a hairdryer and electrocuted himself. True story. So I opened up my garage freezer, and there it was, a big old bird, wrapped in 2 layers of plastic like it had committed a felony. I shoved it into the bottom shelf, cracked a beer, and thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Not even close. The turkey disappeared the next day. I'm not being dramatic. It vanished. One minute it was there, nestled between a bag of frozen peas and a backup lasagna, and the next, gone. No note, no text, no explanation. I stood there staring into the freezer like it had personally betrayed me. I called Kyle. "Hey," I said, "did you swing by and grab the turkey without telling me?" Silence. "Kyle? It was going to," he muttered, "but then Melanie said it would be safer if you brought it, because of freezer burn? Freezer burn isn't a disease, Kyle." "I know, but she read this article." I hung up before he could say wellness blog. Something wasn't adding up. I went back to the garage and did a thorough check, just in case I'd somehow hallucinated a 28-pound bird. Nothing. Except, wait, the trash bin. I popped it open and immediately regretted all of my life choices. Sitting right on top was the turkey wrapper, torn open like someone had wrestled it free in a fit of rage. And there, tucked beneath it, was something even worse, a crumpled piece of paper. A printed email. I smoothed it out. Subject, urgent, catering confusion. Message, yes, we understand the last-minute cancellation. We can provide a backup turkey dinner for 12, including sides and 2 pies, ready for pickup Thursday, 10 a.m. Please confirm pickup details. Signed, the Golden Fork Catering Company. I stared at the paper. Kyle hadn't just forgotten the turkey. Melanie had canceled Thanksgiving. I called Abby. She picked up on the 3rd ring. "Ray, if this is about me bringing wine, I swear I'm getting the good stuff this time." Melanie canceled Thanksgiving. A beat. Then, oh my God, I knew she was up to something. She texted me asking if I had any dietary restrictions for our quiet family dinner, and I thought it was weird because I'm literally allergic to Melanie. We spent the next 10 minutes piecing it together like some suburban crime syndicate had taken over our holiday. Melanie had booked catering, she'd told Mom the bird was being prepped, she'd convinced Kyle that my garage freezer was a health hazard, and she'd done it all under the guise of keeping things simple. But I wasn't about to let her hijack Thanksgiving. New plan, I told Abby. We're taking this back. Like a rescue mission? Exactly. Operation Save the Turkey. Abby was in. She always is when chaos is involved. She said she'd dig up her old work badge from when she briefly interned at the catering company, don't ask, and see what she could find. Meanwhile, I had a new mission, track down the stolen turkey. Because something told me Melanie hadn't just thrown it away, not when she was this careful. No, she'd hide it somewhere, and I had a feeling I knew just the place. Melanie's had always been many things, dramatic, manipulative, and the human equivalent of a pop-up ad, but stupid wasn't one of them. If she'd gone through the trouble of canceling Thanksgiving behind everyone's backs, she wouldn't have just chucked the turkey in the trash. No, she'd stashed it somewhere she thought no one would look, which is how I ended up in Kyle and Melanie's basement at 9:45 p.m. with a flashlight in one hand and a suspiciously warm soda in the other. The place smelled like lavender, plastic bins, and secrets. "Ray?" whispered Kyle behind me, clutching a throw pillow like it was a riot shield. "Maybe we shouldn't be down here. Melanie said the sump pump's acting weird again, and—" "Shh!" I scanned the shelves. Plastic tubs labeled summer decor, baby clothes, and Kyle's medals, which, for the record, was one sad participation ribbon from 6th grade track. Then I saw it. The deep freezer. Wedged behind a tower of Halloween decorations like it was trying to hide, I yanked it open. There it was. Our turkey. Wrapped. It wasn't rock solid anymore. She'd had it thawing in their fridge for days before stashing it down here, which made the whole freezer burn speech even more insane. It sat there like a smug little ice boulder. I turned to Kyle slowly. "Care to explain?" I didn't know she put it here," he said, eyes wide with the look of a man whose spine had just resigned. "Sure you didn't." He threw his hands up. "Look, Melanie said we were going to do a healthier Thanksgiving this year. Organic quinoa stuffing, tofu roast." I squinted. "You're telling me she replaced my 28-pound bird with soy sludge?" "I didn't say I agreed with it." That's when we heard footsteps upstairs. Melanie. Kyle froze, then started moving on pure panic. He killed the basement light and hissed, "You have to go." "I'm taking the turkey. We can't carry that upstairs. She'll hear." I looked at the freezer, then at the narrow basement window. Just barely big enough. 10 minutes later, I was outside in the bushes, covered in dirt and dignity, hoisting a thawing turkey like a sacred artifact. It barely fit through the window, plastic scraping the frame, while Abby, outside in the dark, yanked and whispered, "Pull, Ray, pull," like we were delivering a farm animal. Abby pulled up just in time, headlights sweeping over my shame. "You actually found it?" "In her freezer." "She's diabolical." We threw it into the trunk, slammed it shut, and peeled off like we'd just robbed a deli. Back at my house, we didn't put it back in the freezer because it wasn't a brick anymore and I'm not a monster. We hauled it straight into my fridge, shoved it onto the bottom shelf, and I set an alarm for a stupidly early morning. If we were doing this, we were doing it right. Brine, roast, and enough butter to restore order to the universe. Abby collapsed onto the couch. "Okay, the good news is we've got the bird. The bad news is Melanie still has a catering order coming Thursday morning." I frowned. "Then we cancel it." "Won't she just reorder it?" I smirked. "She might, but not if she thinks someone already picked it up." Abby's eyes lit up. "Oh my God, we catfish her catering." Exactly. Operation Save the Turkey has a phase 2. And thus, we began the dumbest, most rewarding holiday sabotage plan of all time. Abby showed up the next morning in full disguise. And by disguise, I mean sunglasses, a scarf, and one of those oversized tote bags that looks like it holds yoga mats, but really just holds shame and caffeine. "I call this look suburban chaos agent," she said, sliding into my kitchen like a spy with a Wi-Fi addiction. "So what's the play?" "The catering order's being picked up at 10 a.m. from Golden Fork, right?" "Right.
she said, digging into her tote and pulling out her old internship badge from Golden Fork. They probably don't remember me. I was only there for 3 weeks, got fired for accidentally switching the gluten-free lasagna with the regular one at a wedding. Perfect. I pulled up the email and turned my phone to her. Kyle forwarded the order confirmation and the order number. You go in, flash the badge like you belong there, confidently say Melanie's name and read them the order number before anyone's brain catches up. Abby grinned like I'd handed her a mission from MI6. You want me to intercept an overpriced turkey dinner and vanish with it? Yes. She nodded solemnly. Ray, it's an honor. 10 minutes later, she was on her way. I paced the kitchen, sipping terrible coffee and mentally drafting a speech for Thanksgiving in case this all went sideways and Melanie brought police to my front door, which unlikely, but with Melanie, never off the table. Then Abby texted, "Success, the eagle has landed." And by eagle, I mean a deeply underwhelming turkey with kale garnish. Attached was a photo of a plastic container packed with roasted root vegetables that looked like they'd spent their whole lives being punished. She came back grinning ear to ear, arms full of Golden Fork bags. That woman paid $600 for this? There's no butter. None, Ray. The mashed potatoes taste like drywall. I opened a container and winced. Oh no, she tried to turn Thanksgiving into a TED Talk. What now? Now? I said, picking up a Sharpie and scribbling a note on one of the boxes. Now we let her panic. We carefully repacked the food into the same boxes, but added some personal touches, a note on the inside flap that said, "Thanks for choosing Golden Fork, our healthiest meal yet, 0 salt," and a fake pamphlet titled Mindful Meals, celebrating Thanksgiving without overeating. Then we dropped it off on Melanie's front porch and rang the doorbell like it was the world's most passive-aggressive prank. We didn't stick around to watch her face. We didn't need to. 30 minutes later, Kyle texted me. Bro, Melanie is livid, says the food tastes like damp tofu and betrayal, claims someone sabotaged her catering order. She's on the phone with Golden Fork screaming about criminally bland yams. Abby nearly cried laughing. She has no idea it was us. She's about to. I sent Melanie a single text. Hey, just checking in. Everything okay with dinner plans? She left me on red. Perfect. By noon, the family group chat was on fire. Melanie had entered the ring.
Just so everyone knows, there's been an issue with the food. Golden Fork completely messed up the order. The turkey was dry, and the stuffing tastes like sadness. Oh no, that's awful. Do you want me to make something last minute? I heard tofu turkey is really in this year. This isn't a joke, Abby. It kind of is. Melanie didn't respond, but I could feel her rage vibrating through the screen like a Bluetooth speaker in a washing machine. Then she pivoted. She texted me privately. Did you do something to the food? Are you suggesting I masterminded a catering heist just to inconvenience you? Yes, that would be incredibly petty and accurate. I knew it. I didn't deny it. I just sent a gif of a turkey doing a dance and muted her. 2 hours later, Mom called. Sweetheart, Melanie says there's a problem with Thanksgiving. Is that true? Mom, I said gently, do you have food for Thanksgiving? Well, no. Melanie said she was handling it this year. I could practically hear the disappointment settling into her bones. Then how about you come to my place? Silence. Then cautiously, do you have a turkey? I have the turkey, Mom. The original, the chosen one. Mom laughed like she hadn't laughed in weeks. We'll be there in an hour. Abby popped her head in from the living room where she was currently decorating my table with an alarming number of mini pumpkins. You're hosting Thanksgiving now? Guess so. She grinned. Should we invite Kyle? I hesitated. He was my brother, and he had helped hide the turkey, kind of. I sent him a text. Me. Family dinner at my place. Turkey's back. You in? Kyle. Yes, I'll bring rolls, and maybe a helmet. One by one, the rest of the family RSVP'd. Even a couple of aunts who'd been on Team Melanie started defecting once they heard there'd be real butter involved. Because while everyone was piling into my house, I was also up at dawn, half asleep, hands in a bowl of brine, pretending this was normal. The turkey roasted for hours, filling the place with that real Thanksgiving smell.
garlic, butter, and victory, until the skin finally turned that perfect golden brown that makes people forgive each other for at least one day. By the time Melanie realized what was happening, we had a full house, a golden brown turkey, and a playlist of passive-aggressive holiday jazz humming through the speakers. Then the doorbell rang. Abby peeked through the window. "It's her." I opened the door slowly. Melanie stood there holding a tray of her infamous pecan pie, wearing the fakest smile I'd ever seen. "Thought I'd stop by," she chirped, like she hadn't tried to sabotage Thanksgiving 48 hours ago. I looked at the pie, then at her. "You weren't invited." "Excuse me? You're hijacking Thanksgiving. You lied to everyone. You tried to feed us kale stuffing. It was organic, Ray. It was an abomination, Melanie." From the living room, Abby called out, "Tell her we already have dessert. Mom brought real pie." Melanie's eyes narrowed like she was trying to shoot lasers through my face. "I'm your sister-in-law. This is a family gathering." I leaned against the doorframe. "Yeah, and that's the only reason I'm not launching this pie into orbit." Then I gently closed the door. Behind me, the room erupted in laughter. Kyle lifted his glass. "To Ray, the Thanksgiving turkey vigilante." Abby added, "And to Melanie, may her quinoa casserole rest in peace." We feasted, we laughed, and for the first time in years, Thanksgiving felt like family again. Well, most of the family. Melanie didn't go quietly, because of course she didn't. About halfway through dinner, right when Mom was giving a heartfelt speech about family unity with gravy on her chin, my phone buzzed. It was a Facebook notification. Melanie had posted a novel. The title? Betrayed by Blood: How My Husband's Family Exiled Me Over a Turkey. Abby nearly choked on her wine when I read it aloud. "Did she write a manifesto?" "She did," I said, scrolling. "She says the whole family turned on her like a pack of feral dogs over a bird corpse." At that, the entire room fell apart laughing. Aunt Joan clutched her side. "What does that even mean? Who writes like this?" Kyle dragged a hand down his face. "She thinks she's the main character in a Hallmark movie, except the villain." "But wait," I said, "it gets better." She ended the post with a call to action. "If you believe in supporting strong women and healthy families, unfollow these people. They have shown their true colors, and they are brown, like gravy, like sin." I didn't even have time to process that line because Abby was already on her phone typing furiously. "What are you doing?" I asked.
Making merch. I'm putting brown like gravy, like sin, on a hoodie. Kyle looked like his soul tried to exit through his ears. "You can't do that." "She tagged Golden Fork, Kyle. The damage is done. We might as well profit." Over the next hour, Melanie's post gathered steam in the weirdest corners of the internet. A few crunchy wellness influencers commented vague support. Someone named @KaleOverChaos reposted it with the caption, "Meat is murder, family is worse." But for every comment of support, there were 10 mocking her. The post had gone semi-viral. Memes started popping up. One was a badly photoshopped image of Melanie as Napoleon crossing the Alps on a giant turkey. Another had her face over the Grinch stealing Thanksgiving with the caption, "Thou shalt not baste." Abby turned her screen toward me. "We are not the villains. The internet has spoken." Kyle made a low noise that was somewhere between a sigh and a prayer. "She's going to scream at me for hours." "Probably," I said, "but hey, at least now you've got stuffing and moral clarity." He raised his glass again, half defeated, half drunk. "To stuffing and moral clarity. To the turkey uprising of 23, Abby added. Outside, the wind picked up. It was cold, but the house was warm. The food was gone, the wine was flowing, and Melanie's drama was rapidly dissolving into digital noise. We might not have solved all our family problems that night, but we declared independence, and it felt damn good. Thanksgiving weekend ended with Kyle sleeping in my guest room, hiding like a man on the run. Apparently, Melanie had spent the entire car ride home delivering a monologue that could only be described as a cross between a courtroom closing argument and a reality TV reunion rant. At one point, she apparently shouted, "You're choosing drumsticks over destiny." So Kyle showed up at my door the next morning looking like a man who hadn't slept and was seriously reconsidering every romantic choice he'd made since 2016. "She's making a PowerPoint," he mumbled, collapsing onto my couch. "A what?" "She said she's putting together a presentation to show how your turkey stunt triggered her emotional trauma.
She said the betrayal caused something called festive shock disorder. Abby, who'd dropped by with leftover pie and zero boundaries, snorted. That's not real. Kyle buried his face in a pillow. It is now. At 2 a.m., I found him in the garage, door cracked open, sitting on an upside-down bucket in front of the freezer like it was a confessional. "Don't judge me," he said, wiping his face. "It's the only place that feels quiet." "Kyle, you're crying next to frozen peas." "I know. It's humiliating, but it's honest." I handed him a cup of coffee. "You need to leave her." "I know." We all sat in silence for a second, letting that hang in the air like smoke. It wasn't just the turkey. It was everything. The lies, the manipulation, the way she treated life like a stage and everyone else like props. Kyle wasn't just married to a problem. He was married to a walking Yelp complaint. "I'm not saying it'll be easy," I told him, "but you've got backup." He nodded slowly. "It's not just about me. It's about the kids. She's been dragging them into every scheme lately. That daycare stunt? I didn't even know about it until after she'd already tried to pawn them off on you." Abby frowned. "That's not just manipulative, that's dangerous." Kyle rubbed his eyes. "She called the daycare claiming there was a family emergency and had them released early, then tried to drop them at your place while she ran off to some networking brunch to meet what she called providers. She said she was building a support system." "Yeah," I said, jaw tight. "She texted me like it was a done deal. No warning, just, they'll be with you for a few hours, your family. Like I'm a pop-up daycare with a garage freezer." Kyle exhaled, exhausted. "And then she'll turn around and post about how she does everything alone. She keeps saying she's doing it for the kids, but really she's doing it for herself." I hesitated, then asked, "Do you think she'd try to keep them from you if you left?" He looked up. His eyes were bloodshot but clear. "She'd try, but I'm already talking to a lawyer. Quietly, carefully." Abby leaned forward. "You need anything, we've got you." He looked at both of us. "Even if I end up crashing here for a while?" "You've already spilled gravy on our couch. Might as well finish the job." He smiled. Small, tired, but real. "Thanks." That night, Melanie sent me a barrage of texts. One was just a picture of her kids with the caption, "I hope you're proud of yourself." I didn't reply. Because I wasn't going to let her weaponize those kids to cover her own mess. Because Kyle was finally seeing her clearly. Because family doesn't mean being held hostage by someone else's dysfunction. And because this time, for once, we weren't playing her game. A couple months later, everything finally settled. Kyle moved out quietly. No screaming match, no dramatic exit, just a few bags, the kids' favorite toys, and a look on his face that said he was done being managed, guilted, and narrated by someone else. He stayed with me for a bit, then found a small place close to the kids' school. He didn't tell Melanie where it was right away. His lawyer told him not to. Melanie, predictably, went nuclear. Her social media turned into a one-woman tragedy festival. Long posts about betrayal, vague quotes about strong women being silenced, a few not-so-subtle digs about how some men choose meat and money over morals. The engagement dropped fast. Turns out, outrage gets tiring when there's no fresh audience. The part she didn't post about was court. She didn't mention how the daycare stunt came up, or the texts, or the pattern of dumping responsibility on other people while chasing some fantasy version of stability. None of that fit her narrative. Kyle got shared custody. Not perfect, but fair. More importantly, the kids got consistency. Bedtimes, school lunches, a dad who actually showed up instead of chasing the next emotional shortcut. One afternoon, weeks later, Kyle stood in my kitchen watching me prep dinner. "You know," he said, "this all started because of a turkey." I laughed. "No, the turkey just exposed the cracks." He nodded. "Yeah, guess it wasn't really about Thanksgiving." It wasn't. It was about boundaries, about not confusing help with surrender, about realizing that family doesn't mean being held hostage by someone else's dysfunction. And for me, life went back to normal. Quiet dinners, work, no surprise freezer inspections, no catered tofu. Melanie still exists somewhere out there, probably telling a new version of the story where she's the misunderstood hero. That's fine. She always needed an audience. And yes, there was technically a dead body. The turkey. Melanie just kept calling it a bird corpse online like she was prosecuting poultry. We didn't. And every time I open my garage freezer and see that empty bottom shelf, I smile. Because sometimes standing your ground starts with something small, like a turkey.